With me now is Mary Bono, former Republican Congresswoman from my old stomping grounds of Palm Springs, California. It's great to see you today, Mary.
It's great to be with you.
I know that you were watching the GOP debate last night because you were tweeting, and I was really struck by one of your responses here that said, "Am I the only one who finds this debate embarrassing?" What did you find embarrassing about it?
Well, there was a 30-second or so, portion of the debate that was nothing but just screaming amongst Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and Marco Rubio, where nobody could get a word in edgewise. And I just was rather embarrassed by the whole thing. I was thinking about, what are our troops thinking right now, that these three men are yelling at each other, not making any point that was meaningful whatsoever. And I just thought they could do a better job.
But when you see 57%, 59% of the people who walked into the Nevada caucuses tell the entrance surveyors out there, "I'm angry." Right. When you see Donald Trump harnessing that anger and letting it be the momentum and the energy behind his candidacy, how do you argue with seeing that anger then erupt on stage?
Hey, I am not arguing with anger. I understand that. I think Donald Trump is very wise for tapping into that anger and outrage. And look, he's finding every nook and cranny of outrage that exists within the American voter right now. But last night wasn't just anger. It was that the three guys were sort of losing control and they were trying to outdo each other in a race to the bottom of outrage. They each have points to make. I think Donald could have done a better job of pointing out that Marco has no real experience of running a business, and Marco could have done a better job of proving, Donald doesn't have a real plan on health care insurance other than, removing state borders. But it got to just this point of screaming at each other, and they could have done a better job. I don't know if the moderators, if Wolf should have jumped in and done a better job of breaking them apart. I also tweeted that MMA should have been the referees rather than CNN. But really, these guys should be allowed to they should be separated and really go into greater detail. And that's why I thought at some point in time John Kasich was winning, because he was allowed to elaborate and really get out what he was talking about. So they should be outraged. The American people are sick and tired of typical politicians and just rhetoric that goes nowhere. I get that. But yelling at each other really is not the answer.
On August 13th, when Christie was still fighting hard for his own presidential candidacy, he told Fox News that he doesn't think that Donald Trump's temperament is suited for the White House. And yet today we saw the New Jersey governor come out and give his endorsement to Donald Trump. Are a lot of people who are focused on character and temperament, personality, are they just missing the point?
I think that people are looking for the perfect candidate, and perhaps he's not on that stage. They want a hybrid of everybody. I think Donald Trump, look, he's doing a great job of going really far from nowhere. With no money, he's winning this thing with using smoke and mirrors, really, and he's doing a magnificent job. So the temperament thing, is it an act? What is it? It's interesting how all of these candidates who are still left, probably with the exception of Ben Carson, they've all contradicted themselves, one time or another. So it is interesting that Chris Christie contradicted himself on that point. And this race just gets wilder by the day.
Last night we saw Marco Rubio really taking the gloves off, and he's continued to do that this morning, being interviewed on CBS This Morning and out on the campaign trail. He's telling Republicans, he's warning them that if they continue to support Donald Trump, he thinks they're supporting, and he said it, a con artist. Let me play that.
A con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it. And part of it is, look at the report you guys just did. Donald Trump last night had no answers on the issue of health care, and if you listen to that report that just led into this, the media is pumping him up as some sort of unstoppable force. Donald Trump has portrayed himself now consistently as fighting for the working people, and he has a record of sticking it to working people for 35 years. If any other candidate in this race had his record, there would be nonstop reporting on it. But unfortunately, he's being pumped up because many in the media with a bias know that he'll be easy to beat in a general election. So we're going to put a stop to it now. There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
Mary, he said con artist 6 times in 4 minutes in that interview. I know that you're consulting now, too. If you were advising Marco Rubio, would you tell him that painting your opponent as a con artist who just has the Republican voters duped is an effective strategy?
Well, I think against an ordinary candidate, yes, but Donald Trump seems to have something special going for him, and that is, that Teflon Don. It's just not sticking to him. He has a certain sense of, I don't know what it is, but he stands up and he lets everything roll off his back, and he denies almost anything. If you saw his post-debate interview last night, he was out there and saying he won it. He had a sense of ego, and that he had victory about him, and said some things that were pretty outlandish. But that's what I think the people like about him so much, is he acts like a winner. He projects that he's a winner. Whether or not he is doesn't matter. He projects it, and people believe it. So against an ordinary candidate, Marco would be right, but Donald Trump is not your ordinary candidate.
And the fact that Kasich last night came off, you thought, as being presidential and submitting ideas that had real value and real insight, do you think that somebody like that stands a chance at this point in this particular race this year?
Sadly, probably not. I think that John Kasich has proven he's a terrific leader, can do the job, but he's still out on the wings, and he's just not catching fire the way the guys in the center are. But John Kasich really has a great record and has a lot to offer, but he's just not, getting the attention of the American people. But traditionally, of course, John Kasich and the role he's playing of the thoughtful statesman and leader would be the candidate for president, and the role Marco Rubio is playing as a attack dog would be the guy running for vice president. So it's sort of flipped. But right now, of course, the focus all being on Marco. And of course, Marco is such an attractive candidate for a lot of reasons. He's youthful, he's telegenic, he's certainly charismatic and articulate. And of course, he appeals to the Latino vote, so he's a great candidate. But other issues that are plaguing him. But again, Donald Trump is, if there's a nook and cranny of outrage in the American voter, Donald Trump is finding it.
Mary Bono, Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.